Good evening, everybody. It's 9:30 on the East Coast, 6:30 on the West Coast on a Monday. That must mean it's time for your weekly Calamity Jane live stream. James, how are you doing on this, I guess it's technically fall evening?
Yeah, I guess we're right on we just went over the border of that, right? So now it's officially fall time.
It
So
is, yes,
yeah,
yes.
I'm doing great. Amit and I, we were traveling between Texas and Utah. Now we're back in LA. So that's why we didn't stream last week because we were busy jumping around airplanes and airports and stuff. But yeah, we're back and settled in. So I'm back to doodling and doing some animation. How about you?
Doing well, doing well. We hung out with some friends. We, meaning Penny and me, hung out with some friends last week, and we watched the movie Face Off. Do you remember this movie with
Oh,
John
it's
Travolta?
awful.
Oh, it is
You
awful, but
know,
it's awesome. Come
Oh
on.
God, I was so angry at that movie. I called that movie. I mean, I try not to swear too much, but really, when I walked out of that movie, I said, "We need to change that name for Face Off to Fuck Off," because that's what they
Oh,
pretty much told.
ooh,
That's
strong
what they
opinions.
told.
Okay.
I know.
I
Oh
love
my
it.
gosh,
It
I
is
hated that movie.
Travolta and Nic Cage just chewing the scenery. A hilarious premise. John Woo at his most John Woo. I mean, it is an absolute perfect artifact of the 90s.
Oh my gosh. Yes, you're absolutely right. All on all fronts, you are correct. That's why I didn't like the '90s that much, except for maybe Seinfeld and a few things here and there. But the music was crappy. The movies were crappy.
uh,
Oh man.
so my friend Alicia, who joined us to watch the movie, just chatted and said, "No, amazing movie. There are more exclamation marks than I care to admit because this is how appalled she is at your disdain for Face Off. Face slash
Just
off."
I, it's the combination of those two headline actors. It was just too much actor ego, too much cheese. And I
Oh,
love bad movies. That's the thing is, I love bad movies, but I don't know what it is. I can't see. The thing is, when it came out, it wasn't marketed as a bad movie. It was marketed as a John Woo action film, right?
mm-hmm,
Remember, like he
mm-hmm,
was getting all these gigs and like, oh, this is gonna be a great movie. So when you
mm-hmm.
go in, like, then you're fooled, and that was my issue. If it was marketed as a bad movie, I don't know. Maybe I have a
Why would
different
you
take
you
on it
would you
now.
wouldn't like you wouldn't in the 90s, and
I'm
you
trying.
had Nick Cage and John Travolta and John Woo. No one is marketing that as a bad movie. Everybody is marketing that as the summer blockbuster and all summer
Yeah,
blockbusters,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and that's what I thought it was. And came out of it realizing it was that they stole my money, and I was so angry at it. I don't know why. I don't know what it was. It's on me
Mm-hmm.
because I
Mm-hmm.
mean, did Con Air come out before that? The Forrest
Same
Gump
year.
of the
Same
prison
year,
system.
apparently.
Same year. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I think okay, whatever came before, I kind of knew going in that I shouldn't trust Nicolas Cage anymore because of Forrest Gump as a prisoner movie. I could not,
So you're
but I
I
still did. I went with my friends.
what I'm hearing is that you're not really a Nick Cage person in general. You've not really bought into the cult of personality that is Nicolas Cage.
Now, here's the thing: is like now as time has gone on, years, decades
Well,
have
let's
gone on
pause for a
since
second.
then,
What are we
past his
working on? We
prime.
we can dive deep into Nick Cage.
Yeah, yeah. Hang on a second.
But
Yeah,
let's
15.
figure
Yeah,
it out.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. No,
Okay, so
Alicia is
when
just
we last
chiming in
left
one
off,
more time and telling you that it is you need to check your taste of movies at the door a little bit there.
I have great taste in terrible movies. I don't know what it is. Everybody has a palate for certain things. Some people like vanilla. Some people like chocolate. Some people like pistachio. In this particular
My
case, I don't like any of the flavors in the ice cream shop when it
oh,
comes
I
to
see, I see.
face off slash fuck off. But
Eh,
um, as far as work is concerned, I
yes.
am doodling. We left off on this a couple weeks ago, our last stream. The Warhog realizing that just like my face walking out of Face Off, this is the same face
Ooh,
I made too. So see, it's actually sourcing life. He just
I
this
think
Warhog just got done seeing
I think
Face Off
I
and
think I'd
going,
rather
"What the
watch.
hell?"
I would rather watch Face Off again than listen to that pun one more time. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's all moving on. I'm going to move on to this close here, and we'll keep going. Like I need to do this in between, so I'm going to find little snippets here and there as we kind
okay,
of get back into the swing of things. But this pose, I think I have someplace else. But yeah, I'll be working on the Warhog stuff and trying to kind of match stuff that needs new refinement, and we can continue on. But
Well,
Yeah.
let
So
me ask you a
apparently,
question. Like, what did Nick Cage ever do to you? What
should.
happened that you did not join us? And by us, I mean the rest of society
Yeah, I
in
know,
the
I
sort of
mean,
universal love for Nicolas Cage.
the thing is, you know
Nicholas
what? I'll tell you
Coppola
exactly.
Cage. Okay.
I'll tell you exactly where it was. As I missed out on Raising Arizona, so I
Yes.
had no endearment towards him like a lot of people did with Raising Arizona. Um,
But I mean, he
and I
did.
still, to this day, I haven't seen that
Oh wow,
movie,
wow,
Raising Arizona. So
wow.
yeah,
That's a lot for me to
I
take in.
I suspect that you, along with Alicia and other people out in the world that enjoy Nicolas Cage, saw Raising Arizona, and now he gets a get out of jail free card for any movie that he does for the most part, right? I mean, because
Well, no, I mean
he.
there are stuff that he's just so bad that it's just bad. But I mean, no, I mean, but it wasn't just Raising Arizona. I mean, it was Raising Arizona.
Mm,
It was Moonstruck. It was Wild at Heart. It was, I mean, oh man, I mean, just off the top of my head, those are three
mm-hmm,
legitimately amazing movies. Leaving Las Vegas, right? I mean,
mm-hmm,
he can be this phenomenally gifted actor, but he can also just be so fundamentally unhinged, and sometimes it's amazing, like in something like uh, um, well, Face Off, quite frankly, which is just one of the most memeable movies ever. And then sometimes, or that ridiculous movie Willy's Wonderland, which is a riot. Or it could be, a complete disaster like Drive Angry or Bangkok Dangerous or something along those lines, right? And so I don't know. I see his insanity, and sometimes with the right writer and the right director, they can bottle it and turn it into something amazing. But then other
mm-hmm.
times, just the unhinged nature of it. I don't know. I just think he's when I watch a Nick Cage movie, I'm not watching for him to fall into the scenery and be a part of the world. I mean, the movie tends to revolve around him. Oh, that's right. Alicia just reminded me he was in the Left Behind movie.
Left Behind, is that the religious?
Yes, it
Movie?
is. It is the
He did that too.
Yes, he
Oh
was
my
in that movie
god!
too.
I said God because oh my god, yeah, it's a rap movie.
Well, I mean, it makes sense that
Man,
he wouldn't be one of the ones raptured. He's too cool. Um,
wow.
but yeah.
Yeah. So okay, I'll tell you one that I liked him in. There's two that I liked
Okay.
him in. Um, the one where he put on a lot of muscle and weight, and he was like a heavy, and he was like the son of a mobster. I don't remember the movie, but I remember his role in it. I enjoyed him in that. I thought he was great in that movie.
Son
And
of a
also,
mobster.
yeah, like he was connected to some mobster. He wore like a tank top a lot and stuff like that. He was sort of opposite of the guy that was from the CSI, the red haired guy.
Oh,
Um, you know what actor I'm talking about. See,
yeah,
this is where
yeah.
I rely on you.
From CSI Miami, right?
Yes, that guy. The guy that always takes his sunglasses off when he needs to say something important.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one of
and he
my
goes,
favorite memes ever. Yeah.
yeah, that guy. So he was in the movie as the hero, and Nicolas Cage was kind of almost opposite of him
Mm-hmm.
as a mobster son type of character. And
Okay.
I thought that was actually a pretty fun movie, but it was sort of under the radar.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't immediately
Yeah.
jump out to me right away. I mean, how long ago was it?
Oh, this is in the '90s, of course.
Oh,
It was in the
okay.
'90s. So, but I thought I thought they were both in it. So I could be just in a desert of hate and just seeing mirages of what I think a good Nicolas Cage movie is too. So keep in mind, maybe my memory is
Oh,
spotty, but
Kiss
I
of
do.
Death, David Caruso, Kiss of Death.
Yes.
You are,
Yep.
according to IMDb, you are the rare fan of that movie.
Yep. Yep. I thought he did a really good job, and I
But
remember he
it's
got panned for that movie.
Yeah, but it's
Right?
got a hell of a cast. Holy moly!
Yes. Yeah, I really enjoyed that movie. And also, what's the other one? You know this one. I think is it The Spotless Mind, whatever the long title is. And he
No,
played
you're
in that
thinking
wars.
of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind was written by Michel Gondry, or rather written by Charlie Kaufman, directed by Michel Gondry. But you're thinking of Adaptation, which was also written by Charlie Kaufman, but it was directed by Spike Jonze. But yeah, Adaptation.
This is why we have what's both on the street, because I just throw a bunch of random stuff and you can actually fact check it and then cross check it with
Right,
my
right.
with it. Yeah, but that's the other one. He was great in that. I thought he was terrific in that movie.
I mean, what about Ghost Rider?
Okay, Ghost Rider was panned. I didn't mind it. I thought he was too Nicolas Cage.
The first one was actually kind of fun. The second one I found to be unwatchable.
Yeah, the thing is, the problem is he's Nicolas Cage, so he's become his own walking, like I think you were saying before, he's his own meme. So he gets in his own way, and then you can't really enjoy the movie anymore. But I thought the first one was okay. I don't think it was. I mean, if we're talking about being comic book nerds here, he's not Johnny Blaze at all. I don't see him as that at all. But
he's too punk rock for Johnny Blaze, honestly.
Yeah. You need somebody like that played MacGyver. What's his name? Richard Dean Anderson. What's his name?
Yeah, he would have been a good Johnny Blaze.
He would have been a good Johnny Blaze. Yeah, anybody with a good mullet, that type of thing. Oh, they would have been perfect for Johnny Blaze.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about Nic Cage with a mullet. That would be a weird one.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know you didn't see the Flash movie, but he had the mullet in that because they did
the CG from the Superman Lives. Yeah.
Well, and I guess in the shoots and stuff like that, they were building up to it. He had a mullet and everything, or long hair.
It was longish hair, but it was brushed back.
But it looked like a mullet. But whatever.
But no, a fun fact about that. He actually is a huge Ghost Rider fan.
He
pushed really hard to be in that. So much of that they had to actually CG out a Ghost Rider tattoo that he has for the scene.
Oh, really?
Just and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a fun, crazy thing.
And I mean, this is this is before Marvel blew up. So Marvel's like, yeah, you can buy our license for $10, sure. We'll let you use the Ghost Rider. We have nothing else we're doing with it. This is like right after. I mean, Blade was really the only legitimate, respectable Marvel movie at the time. This is before Iron Man. Oh, well, no, it was post Iron Man, right?
No,
did Iron Man come out?
Way before Iron Man.
Was it way before Iron Man?
The first Blade came out in like 2000, or rather 1998. I want to say.
No, I'm sorry. What I meant is like the Ghost Rider come before Iron Man or after Iron Man? That's what I meant.
That I don't know.
Yeah, because I think it was right in that gray area where
right before
Marvel was still.
It was 1 year before Iron Man.
Yeah, and then Iron Man gave Marvel their ego, their cinematic ego, to do stuff and start trying to But yeah, I didn't mind Ghost Rider for a Nicolas Cage movie. So where would you put Face Off in the pantheon of Nicolas?
Well, I mean, it's challenging, right? Because this is a performer who has, sunk to the lowest of lows and risen to the highest of highs. I mean, he's been he's been Icarus and Hades all at the same time,
multiple times too. That's the fascinating thing about him is he keeps doing it.
Yeah,
it's really annoying. It's like pick a lane, dude.
I mean, no, I like that he's completely unhinged. Because you'll get things like Mandy, which are just these bizarre horror movies, but are actually like kind of great, right? You'll do things that are just these really introspective, thoughtful movies like Leaving Las Vegas or Adaptation, which is in my it is definitely my top 10 favorite movies of all time. And he's phenomenal.
Leaving Las Vegas, that's where he played an Elvis, right? Was he
Elvis
impersonator?
Elvis impersonator, and he is in real life obsessed with Elvis. Yeah, I mean he was married to Lisa Marie Presley for a while.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But no, he played an alcoholic Elvis impersonator, and his girlfriend, I think played by Elizabeth Shue, I think she was a prostitute, and it was just sort of, it's a movie about this codependent self-destructive relationship, and it's really brilliant. But I mean, it's he doesn't go full Cage at any point. I think Jimmy Caan is in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
But Alicia is really bothered by the fact that you are struggling with Nicolas Cage, and now she's just listing Nicolas Cage movies, and she's picked some really good ones here. I mean, Matchstick Men with Sam Rockwell, like that, and that was Ridley Scott, right? Lord of War, which was a really underrated movie. Oh my God, he plays an arms dealer. And it's just it's so good. Now
I recall the general premise of it because it's based loosely on a real life guy,
person.
Right?
Yeah. Who, as far as I know, unless he's been murdered, as of like 10 years ago, he was still active. He was still an arms dealer. And then The Rock, I mean, which is a classic of 90s action cinema.
See, Sean Connery was the anchor to that movie, and I didn't mind that movie. I mean, it was okay. Nicolas
Oh.
Cage couldn't ruin it because Sean Connery was in it.
Well, and Ed Harris
And
too.
Sean
Come on,
Connery's
man. Ed
oh, and
Harris
Ed
is
Harris,
just
that's right. Yeah,
yeah,
he was great in it too.
yeah.
You know what it was? The '90s, we were just stuck with Nicolas Cage and John Travolta crap a lot. Like, remember? I mean, I know we're talking about Nicolas
Phenomenon.
Cage, but yeah, we're stuck with stupid John Travolta. After again, this is another reason why Quentin Tarantino really resurrected John Travolta's career with that Pulp Fiction stuff. Then he started
Mm-hmm.
getting all these roles: Broken Arrow,
Mm-hmm.
Phenomenon, all these other random movies that I just like. Why? I don't. He's not that great. He's okay, but I don't want to see him. I don't want to keep seeing him in all these movies. And then they put the two of them together in a movie. It was like
And
I'm surprised the world didn't end. Maybe we're living in a
what actually
simulation after
did,
that.
we're right. We are living in a
Ugh,
simulation now, the post Face
yeah,
Off simulation, because it was sort of the apotheosis of '90s movies. I mean,
yeah,
it had every single thing that you should ask for in a '90s action movie, and they delivered it
yeah.
to us on a silver platter.
I guess so. Yeah, I yeah. So I have no. There's no. I just don't know what to expect with Nick Cage. A recent example is
Yeah.
Renfield, right? You saw that and you were really disappointed because he wasn't in it enough, I
Well, I
guess,
wasn't
right, or
disappointed.
something.
I wasn't disappointed by him. He
Mhm.
was phenomenal as Dracula, and I was and we talked about this, so I won't belabor to the point. But I think what happened is that in the original, this is me speculating, but based on how badly
Mhm.
it was, I suspect
Mhm.
I'm not far off. But he was, according to the director in the original cut of the movie, Nick Cage said, not the director. Nick Cage said he wasn't really in it that much. And I
Uh-huh.
think that without a doubt, he was the best part of the movie. And so the producers went, okay, you're going to go back, you're going to recut this movie so Nick Cage is a more center part of it. And then because they did that, they lost a lot of the narrative that explained these random scenes that didn't match up, right? And
Oh,
it
it's too
turned what
bad.
I think would have been, I was really excited about it, this kind of play with the idea that Renfield and Dracula are in this really nasty codependent relationship, and then
Mhm.
Renfield starts getting group therapy and it starts changing his perspective. I mean, it was just like the premise was so funny, and
Yeah.
you could see bits of that in it, but I think that, I mean, the best part of that movie, without a doubt, was Nick Cage, and so I get the sense that the producers like, no, we need Nick Cage in this movie more,
Mhm.
and that ultimately like doomed its fate. I mean, I maintain doomed it to its fate. I maintain that if they release a director's cut, it would become a cult classic because I think that there is enough footage there that
Mhm.
was left on the cutting room floor that it wouldn't make it sing. Right? I mean, that's my suspicion. But no, Nick Cage was not what was wrong with that movie.
Hmm. So
Um,
it was just editing and the director
yeah, it
forced
was.
decision.
I mean, honestly, the editing killed it. Like, I didn't really
Yeah.
mind the directing. The writing for what was there was fine. It was these scenes that clearly were intended, like, that were clearly intended to be separated by three other scenes,
Hmm.
all of a sudden wind up next to each other, and you're like, what just happened? Like, when did you get shot? Why are you passed out on her couch? The last time I saw you, you guys were driving away in a sports car. Like, what is going on here, right?
Hmm.
So anyway, whatever. That movie had so much potential, and I think there was a lot of reasons why it fell apart. But
Well, regardless, he's still getting work, so
well,
more power to him.
the rumor is that he finally paid off the IRS, and so he's actually allowed to start being picky about his choices again.
Oh my gosh.
I
Well, that's good. I mean, again, good for him. I mean,
yeah.
I don't, like I said, like it's like a mixed bag with him. So I'm fine with him being around and doing stuff. I mean, it's great,
Well,
but
good. I'm glad that he
don't,
got your
just
permission to
don't
be
know.
around.
I just don't know. I just don't know if he's going to get my money all the time anymore. I just don't fucking
Fair.
trust it. I'll rely on you, or I, yeah, I'll just rely on you, I suppose, at this point. I just don't know. I just
Well,
don't know what to think anymore.
there is a new movie coming out that looks really cool. I'm really excited about it. Called Dream Scenario. He
And
plays.
he's in that?
Yeah, he plays sort of this old, bald, tubby professor, and he just starts randomly showing up in people's dreams at first, and
That
just
sounds
stands
creepy.
there. It's creepy, but it's also kind of a comedy. and it looks really interesting. I'm really looking forward to it.
Mm.
And then, but in typical fashion, he can't just do good things because he's got another movie that's sort of like a John Wick-esque
Oh
movie that's
boy.
coming out soon called The Retirement Plan, where he plays like a retired grandpa who turns out to be, I guess, a hitman or some sort of mob enforcer that's forced to come out of retirement to protect his family. And it's got, I haven't seen it, so I'm not going to pass judgment on it, but it's sitting at a 5.2 on IMDb right now.
Okay. Well.
So
Wait. So you are not going to see this movie?
I mean, I'll go watch anything. I don't, I don't. I like Nic Cage. I went and saw, I didn't see The Old Way in theaters. That was in theaters for like 5 seconds because it's the modern age of movies, and nothing stays in theaters that long anymore unless it's Barbenheimer, I guess. But yeah, no, the at least Dream Scenario looks really good. So I'm hoping it is. It's A24, and A24 typically has pretty good taste in what they distribute.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll rely on your opinion on this one and see if it's worth seeing in the theater or not. I guess. At this point.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I am so busy right now. I haven't gone to see a movie in theaters since I think
Barbie
Strays. No, since Strays.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, you saw Strays?
Yeah, oh my God, I loved it. I thought it was hysterical.
I felt like this was gonna be a cash grab, but you enjoyed it, huh?
I really enjoyed it. Jamie Foxx he carried the whole movie, and he was great. It was so lowbrow. It was nothing but obnoxious, like hump jokes and pee jokes, and but it's exactly what you expect it to be, and it was a riot. I mean, I laughed the whole way through.
Well, I mean, yeah, I was curious about this. I don't know if I was going to see that one in a theater, but I mean, I'll probably watch it on streaming, at some point whenever they release it. I don't know. I mean, you wouldn't say it's something where you would recommend people see it in the theater, right? I mean,
what, Strays?
Yeah.
No, you don't need to see that in the theaters. I mean,
Okay.
it's. I mean, me. I mean, I love watching movies in theaters. I don't even care what it is, but no. I mean, like the experience won't be particularly enhanced watching in the theater, like something like Ninja Turtles would be, or or Oppenheimer. Quite frankly, I think something's going to get lost in translation with Oppenheimer when you watch it on just a regular TV. So
yeah.
But anyway,
that one you definitely need to see big. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But anyway, so this is a fun fact that was brought to my attention minutes before we went on the stream. Did you know that tomorrow is the 37th anniversary of Castlevania's release?
Wow,
The
that's
original.
crazy.
Isn't it 37 years? I was 3 when that game came out.
Holy, that's crazy. My gosh, 30 years. And it's still one of my top games of I don't know where I put it in the pantheon of games, but it's such a it's a near perfect game for me. I love playing that game. I would still play it every couple of years, just to play it and beat Dracula. What a great game, great music, all that stuff. 30 years, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that puts it at around 1985, which, well, I guess I was 4 then. But yeah, it's been around for a minute. Or wait, did it come out on like the MS2 or Commodore before the NES, or did it premiere on the NES? Do you remember?
I thought it premiered on the NES. I wasn't familiar with it ever being any iteration of it anywhere before the NES. It was when the NES came out. From my recollection, there's a lot of first gen games. Obviously Super Mario Brothers and all that kind of stuff. But Castlevania and Konami, like their entry was Contra and Castlevania, and they were part of that first wave of in-house games, and they were so good. Mega Man 1 was another one, I think. They all kind of came out in that first gen wave of games, and that's how I remember it.
It was always interesting too. Back in that day, Nintendo only would let a publisher release 5 games a year. And
Oh, I didn't know
so,
that.
yeah,
That's crazy.
that's what Ultra Games is. Ultra is just an imprint of Konami. And so basically,
And that
Konami
was their way of
created,
getting around it.
yeah, they created the Skunk Works to release five more games a year. And
That's so
so,
funny.
so Ninja Turtles was released under the Ultra license, but it was really actually Konami was the developer.
Wow, that's so funny. Yeah, well, I'm
Ah,
glad they
okay,
did.
okay. So it was originally on the Nintendo system, but it wasn't a cartridge. It was on the disk system in Japan. And then it got
Oh,
ported to the console. Thank you, Alicia. Yes, she's reminding me of that. In fact, fun fact, so the disk system, well, not the disk system, the Famicom itself had a fourth music channel.
okay.
And the NES, to save on memory costs to keep the price down, they removed one of the music channels in the U.S. release of the NES, and as a result, they had to cut an entire harmony track out of the Castlevania theme. So
Hmm.
if you go back and you like get on YouTube and search for original Castlevania music track, there's a fourth music channel that you don't get to hear if you played it on the original NES version.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, well, I mean
I didn't know that.
The American version. If you played it in Japan, you got to hear the whole thing.
So wait, so in Japan they had a disc version, like they actually the Famicom was disc based. I thought it was cartridge based
Well, no,
in Japan as
they had
well.
a disc add-on, right?
Oh, okay, okay.
Like the
Huh.
Legend of Zelda originally was on the Famicom, so that you could
Huh.
do save, memory saves. Yeah, Castlevania was. What are the other ones? There's a couple of NES games. No, I don't think Super Mario Bros. 2 was. Anyway. There's a couple of like games that they did ultimately port to regular cartridges in the States that came out on the disc system, the Famicom disc system in Japan.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, well that's cool though. The anniversary of Castlevania. I mean, it's. I don't think it ever gets. I mean, the problem was Konami and how they are, like and their obsession with Plinko games, what they're called, the Pachinko games. I think lately, and what they've done with their IP has been weird lately. But man, they came out of the gates on fire with their initial run of games. And that, yeah, when they did Ultra, it was the same thing. It's just
Mm-hmm.
every game was just worth checking out, renting, or buying. If I remember right, the Ninja Turtles game, the first one, was an Ultra Games release, right? But we all knew it was
Yes.
Konami.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. That's right.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Everything they would do, for the most part, it was nothing that was just bad.
yeah. No, they
Fast
weren't. They
forwarding to
weren't like
today.
LJN, which was just intentional shovelware,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
it is
yeah.
interesting. LJN came about after Nintendo was kind of forced because of economics to drop the 5 games a year limit, and LJN was, of course, one of the publishers who abused that, right? And so you
Of
get
course they did.
Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and you get Back to the Future, and you get, oh man, I can't even remember just the schlock that they released over the course of about 10 years across the NES in particular, but to a lesser extent the Game Boy and the SNES. It's just amazing how many bad games. And we all bought them though, because they would get these licenses, they
Yep,
would
they
shovel
would.
out the games using the licenses, and we all bought them. I mean, I can't tell
Hmm.
you how many hours I put into the Back to the Future game, not understanding that it was just not beatable, right? Like, I'm just not
I
good enough to beat this game. No, it's not that you're not good enough; it's that the game is fundamentally broken.
Yeah, I mean that I chalk that up to you just not knowing better as a little kid, and you didn't know that how bad
Yeah.
LJN games were. I remember my friends and I we walked a couple of miles to go and pick up just because we were nuts. We walked a couple of miles to go pick up LJN's X-Men game,
Oh,
and we're
that was
thinking,
a
oh, we were so
oh
excited. We
man.
walked like for 2 hours just to go get the game. We were so excited to play Wolverine and all these other characters, and you put that game in, and it was such. Wolverine didn't even use his claws; he would kick. He literally had a 2 frame animation of him just kicking. That's how you destroyed enemies. It was so bad. But that point on, I knew LGM. You never trusted again. Like after that, it was just
Oh wow.
that company was terrible.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I don't know
Oh
if you ever
man.
played the X-Men game, but
Very
that
briefly,
one,
I have the faintest memories of it. I remember it being awful, and then that was about it.
yeah. I mean, and considering like again back then, like before Marvel blew up and everything like that, we were just hungry to have anything comic book related that transcended its traditional media, and
Mm-hmm.
we were stoked about something like that. But yeah, yeah, LJN was pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I will say though, I don't know if you ever played it, but there was one game that they had almost. It was almost a good game, and that was I enjoyed their TNC surf game, where you could play. I think the gorilla, and then you could play Joe Cool, and you could play all these characters that you saw on the T-shirts. I didn't, at least for
Was
me, like those T-shirts were so popular. The TNC Hawaii T-shirts. And
Those
all the
predate me a
characters
little
on that.
bit. I'm a little bit too. When I was coming into middle or elementary school, those were on their way out. Like you would see
Yeah.
them in the fifth graders and stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
they were sort of on the way out as I came into school.
Mm.
I do remember them, but yeah, no, I never had them. They were never the
Yes,
hit
it was-
item that I needed to have.
Yeah, but it was just cool to actually play the characters that you saw on the T-shirts all the time. I thought, I mean, I was a big fan of those T-shirts because of the designs of the characters. They were so cool. Even now, I mean, I still think they would hold up. I mean, yeah, the gorilla and the really cool dude. They were fun little designs. But yeah, it was fun. You could actually play the surfboard. You'd actually surf on the wave and stuff. It was actually.
So is it like California games?
I don't know. I never played California games. That one I never had a chance to play. So.
Okay, because it was the same thing. It had like skateboarding and surfing and mountain biking and
Okay.
a few other games, but it wasn't like licensed. It was just an original product.
And that was
What's that?
that was Ultra Games, right?
I'm trying to remember. Hold on. It was Epix. Oh no, that was on the Commodore. Rare did the original
Oh,
NES game.
wow.
Wow, that I did not know.
I didn't know they went that far back.
Oh yeah, no, they've been. I mean, they did RC Pro-Am. They did Snake Rattle and Roll. They did.
That's
shoot.
right. They did do. They were attributed to RC Pro-Am, huh? See, I thought I always associated RC Pro-Am as a first gen like in-house game for Nintendo,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I do remember seeing Rare's name on that during the load-up screens
Yeah.
playing that game.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, they did. I mean, they were doing games long before the NES, but they sort of came in their own starting on the NES.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, they did Battletoads. Good lord.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I know.
So, no, they've been around. They're still floating around. Although they've kind of turned right now, at least, into a games as a service company with their Sea of Thieves game, which has developed over the years a pretty hardcore cult following. But it's online only, and I don't like playing video games with strangers online as a general rule.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Plus, it's on Xbox One, and I exclusively use my Xbox as a Blu-ray player now. So,
Yeah. So back to Castlevania. Where would you put Castlevania in your list of games? Like, where would you put it?
The first one, I mean, below Mega Man, honestly.
Okay.
I mean, of the big three early platformers, Mario, Mega Man, and Castlevania, it was definitely my least favorite of the three. I mean, I liked Castlevania, but if I were going to grab something, it would be Mario, and if it wasn't Mario, it would be Mega Man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it's Castlevania is I love Mega Man. Don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed that game. But it's a really tough one. I do put Castlevania higher for me in the rankings. I don't know what it is. So I think it's the aspect that you're hunting Dracula, and I hated vampire anything, and I love the fact that you could hunt the vampire.
Oh, you're getting revenge on this.
Yeah, that's what it was. I think that's what did it. Yeah, because we're so obsessed with vampires and Nicolas Cage in our society.
Oh, so Renfield's like a double whammy for you. You hate
it would
vampires
be.
and Nic Cage.
Yeah. So if they made a Nicolas Cage Renfield video game where you have to attack rental at the end, I'd probably buy it, even if it was made by LJN. I'd
Just
probably
on
buy it.
principle, yeah, right.
Just on principle, yeah,
Resurrect
exactly. So
LJN just to make a really terrible game to force James to
yeah,
buy it out of principle. That is the
exactly.
longest
So
of cons right there.
so yeah, but that I think that's what tapped into my imagination that way for Castlevania. But yeah, I love that game. It's there's so much to it, and then for the most part the sequels are great up until Symphony of the Night. It was a great one too, a nice little change of pace with that one. But it did sort of forever ruin the franchise too, with I think Symphony of the Night 2, meaning it became really RPG like after that. You never really got those classic, side scrolling, just play the game and
I mean,
I mean, you get a couple of them
they
in.
tried in different ways, right?
Yeah, yeah,
They went to a more traditional brawler format, less platforming with Legacy of Darkness, Lord of Darkness. I'm trying to remember.
Lords of Shadow,
Lords of Shadow, thank
right?
you. And even before
Yeah.
that, actually, and that's way down the road. I mean, they really tried to do it with Castlevania on the N64,
Mm-hmm.
where it was very strictly an old school Castlevania game down to you'd hit the candles to get the whip power ups, right?
Yeah,
And then when you
yeah,
died, you
that's true.
lost. And that game was much maligned, but it was a diamond in the rough. If you could get past its very very legitimate gripes, there was a lot of good there. And in fact, they went back and remastered it and added 2 new characters that they had cut out of the game originally just to hit a deadline. And it's remarkably good. But
That's
it's
the one
also
where
really hard to get.
that's the one with the where they actually introduced the werewolf
Yes,
character, right?
that's the one. Yeah, yeah,
It was
yeah.
a really yeah. It's almost like they should have just sat on the original version and just released it with the werewolf, and you had that option. It would have been a much better. It would have been a. I think it would be remembered more, more
Yeah.
fondly. I think it was so because I played both. I liked the first one. I thought it was just missing. I think it was just half baked. But by the time they released the one with the werewolf, I can't remember the name of the character.
I
It
don't
was
remember either.
really good. It was a really well put together game.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had the other mage character that could do the orbs and stuff like that, and
Yep.
have them float around you and
She
shoot
was the
around.
new. She was the one that was added as well, right? The original
Mm,
one was the one magic user, and or no, wait, no, it was the dual barrel gun character. That was the other one added. The orb
okay.
girl. She was in the original version.
Okay.
So it
Yeah.
was Reinhardt, the Reinhardt character who was a descendant of Simon Belmont, and the
Mm,
mage character, and then they added the gunslinger and the werewolf in the like sort of expanded remastered one that came out a
yeah.
couple years later.
Yeah. I'm not. I'd be surprised. I mean, that's what I'm not sure if they're gonna ever release on the Switch. For the N64 side of things. But I would definitely play it again. Just
Oh yeah, I would at least for a little bit, just
memory
to
lane.
go down memory lane for a little bit. I'd love to see that happen, but who knows? I mean, Konami seems to be getting back into the game space a little bit more. They've actually got a new, for the last couple of years, they've been doing these remastered collections, right? So they did 2 Castlevania collections. They did a Contra collection. The Ninja Turtle collection was a joint
Yep.
effort between them and Nickelodeon. They've got the Metal Gear Solid Collection Volume 1 coming out later this year. So they've been doing a lot of collection games, and I've bought most of them because it's like I love all of those games.
Hmm.
But they hadn't up until recently been doing a lot of original stuff, and they're just announced their first like original game in a decade or something like that should be coming out a little bit later this year.
Wow. They actually published in-house Konami type of
Yeah, an
thing. Or?
in-house game that they developed and they're publishing. I think
Wow.
that
Okay.
them going, oh, we're just going to do pachinko games kind of backfired on them, and so now
Oh gosh.
they're
What were they
crawling
thinking?
back, tail between their legs into the games industry, the video game
Ugh.
industry.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to see them doing that at least. Better late than never. I mean, it was such a waste of time for them to do um, Pachinko. I just didn't understand what. I guess they just saw Vegas stuff and they thought, well, this is what we want to do, and
I mean, there are
uh,
some companies that make, their entire model is just on doing casino games. So I mean, it is
mhm.
viable, but I just don't know. I don't know that the I guess I just don't know. It's such a different market. It's such a different culture. Pachinko versus American, casino games.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the two are even remotely relatable or translatable.
I mean, are pachinko games readily available in Japan? Like where you could, I don't remember even seeing them that much. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, when I went with my ex-wife, when we went to Akihabara,
mm-hmm.
of course we went to the Sega arcades and the Namco arcades and walked around all the geek shops and stuff, but there were pachinko parlors everywhere.
Okay.
And we walked into one, and the noise was so deafening, we turned out and just walked away. Like we didn't.
Mm-hmm.
It was unreal. The clatter of steel balls bouncing off of steel pins was so loud it hurt our ears immediately.
Yeah, I guess when Amit and I went, we weren't really looking for pachinko parlor type places. I guess we just didn't really notice them. I mean, we definitely went into the big giant arcade buildings and stuff like that, which are now, I guess, supposedly kind of fading away. I mean, that's what I've heard.
Yeah, Sega sold all of theirs.
Yeah, which is really a shame. So I'm happy that I had a chance to at least walk through a couple of them and enjoy them for what they are. But just like it is here, like American arcades are a dying breed too. Like they're little ghost rooms now, and they barely.
Unless you've got these big mega spaces that have all of this sort of kitschy, gimmicky mechanics, right? That can't translate to home platforms.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, yeah.
It's like if you want to play Guitar Hero now, you have to do it in an arcade because no one's going to buy these cheap plastic guitars that take up space and collect dust in your house anymore, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But this is a minor aside, but when I finally picked up bass and started playing bass and went, oh wait, playing a real musical instrument is way more interesting than playing this video game. Not to say that the game was bad, but it was just when I actually learned how to play a real musical instrument, sort of the allure of Guitar Hero went away,
Wait, so did you learn how to play the guitar after Guitar Hero?
I learned how to play bass after Rock Band, actually.
Okay. Wow, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be really big into all of those games, and then I decided, it completely unrelated to Guitar Hero, honestly. I decided that I actually wanted to play a real musical instrument, and so I picked up the bass, and then when I learned how to play it, I was like, I'd just rather actually play a real musical instrument than play a video game, so it just kind of
so
fell away. And again, it's not a commentary on the game, and the game was what it was, extremely fun.
Yeah, yeah, it's great for parties too.
I
never could get into them. Yeah, I never could get into them either. And then when Rock Band came out, I was just because in college I played drums, not very well, mind you, but I understood how to play the drums. And then Rock Band came out, and you have a drum set. It's like, well, and so I came from that same mindset. I was like, well, why would I want to do this when I could just play drums? I mean, why am I going to hit up these little panels? And I guess there's a gamification of it that's kind of fun. But I felt, though, oddly enough, I felt like the drum portion of Rock Band was probably the closest thing you could get to playing a real instrument, because you still have to keep up with cadence and the beat and stuff. But the whole button clicking and stuff like that was so foreign. It felt so odd to me. So I never could get into those games. But for a party, they were fun. Just to kind of goof around and stuff like that. So, yeah. Well, I think at this point, I actually kind of broke ground in a couple of different areas. I mean, I wish I could kind of. So, I mean, we have this pose was done last week. I've kind of been doing a little bit of animation with it, but then I actually added in the side view of this to get into this pose from the previous shot, and then added just a couple of more drawings to kind of get to turning around again. We had the same drawing from a couple weeks back where I borrowed it. So that saves us some time for animation. So I'm kind of just doing let's recycle stuff when we can, and
that's animation.
Kind of paying off.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's paying off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And again, way back when we first started this, part of our sensibility was we wanted to do Herculoid style, efficient and or cheap animation to kind of keep our, to kind of keep that going, and we're definitely doing that in this as I'm going through scenes. I'm grabbing whatever I can. It's in my memory bank. What did I draw that one? Yes, and I'll use it here, and I would still tell the story. And that's kind of the intention. And this so far, the evil plan's working. So that's good.
Well, I mean,
I'm happy.
it's a two pronged approach, right? It's not just is it like an animation of economics of animation, but it's also an actual intentional aesthetic, right? I mean, even though they did technically predate us because they were coming out in the early '60s, but those kind of Hanna-Barbera cartoons, I grew up with them because of Nickelodeon and later, especially with Cartoon Network, and so growing up with the Herculoids and Space Ghost and Kazam and Wacky Racers, all of those,
Yeah.
right? All of those old style cartoons. I don't know. There's something very nostalgic about the
Yeah.
very specific kind of cheap way that they handle the
Yeah.
animation.
Yeah. The held poses for the body, but yet just the legs would move. And there's something endearing and kind of cute about that.
Yeah.
That's fun.
So the fact that we use that to inform the overall aesthetic, that it buys you the opportunity to cheat, is just it's a nice it's a nice extra.
Yeah. So yeah, it's funny because like I wanted to kind of I mean that aesthetic's in there, but then at the same time as an animator, I want to do other stuff and I do want to draw when I can, but I'm trying to it's like it's kind of like walking, two different paths at the same time in a way because I want to be there's an idea I have and it needs to be drawn and I could recycle it in one spot, but then but then there's a part of me that just obviously I care about what we're working on, so I want to do something that's really cool too. But then again, we could spend forever if I want to draw every single frame of stuff like that, and so like we're kind of doing like a weird hodgepodge of the past and then using modern technology to do more animation and taking advantage of it the best we can, sort of, but using the inspiration from way back when. So yeah.
Well, seems
while
like
we're talking video games, stuff like that at the same time.
Yeah.
And Nicolas Cage. So,
and Nicolas Cage, yeah, exactly. Well, it seems like you're at a pretty good stopping point. So I guess it's probably about as good a time as any to wrap up. So we'll close out there. Quick reminder, everybody, to head on over to calamityjane.rocks. That'll take you to our Patreon site where you can become a subscriber and help us make this cartoon a reality. We're still putting together our Threads accounts where we will move our 3-thread story. So look out for that in the near future. We've got the account set up, but we're trying to populate it with some content first before we make it go live to everybody. I mean, it's out there. You can find it. It's Calamity Jane Salamander on Threads, but there's not a lot there for you to look at for the moment. But it's coming. And then, of course, you can check us out on YouTube and Facebook, which presumably you're doing right now, I would assume. And that's about it. I think that's the usual spiel. So we'll wrap it up there. I think we'll be back at the normal time next week, right, James?
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Well, stay safe out there, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Good night.
Good night.